The distress of Sherlock Holmes. You think? Great, here we go. The air was the same as any other autumn morning. It was refreshing, crisp. Its warmth had been on a steady decline as winter drew near, but it was none the less welcome as the chill was the first signal of morning's arrival. If only I felt as refreshed.
My lady? Whatever is the matter, my lady? You're looking rather despondent. Is what happened to Holmes still weighing on your mind?
I can't help it. It's all I can think about.
Perhaps so, but it won't do to worry so excessively. Holmes has denied all charges, yes? You and Watson have also testified to his character.
He did. He says that for now, all that's changed for him is that Scotland Yard has him under watch. I had, in fact, presented the Yard with a truthful account of what I'd witnessed. And though both my and Watson's testimonies matched Holmes's to the letter, they had yet to be entirely convinced. No doubt in their eyes, all rang false against the pistol found in his pocket. I could argue. I could argue and cry and testify till my voice was gone, but there was nothing in my power to sway them. I feel I've banged them over the head with the truth, but they're set on believing I'm lying to protect him. As things are, the only way I could convince them he's innocent is to find the real culprit myself. Prove it with irrefutable evidence.
I certainly don't fault you for wanting to help him. Though I shall ask you not to do anything rash in the process. There's no telling what danger you might find yourself in.
I'm well aware, Pendleton. I raised my cup and inhaled the tea, now stone cold, in one indelicate gulp before realizing I had not yet read the morning paper. Am I correct in assuming there is bad news in the paper?
What leads you to that assumption?
Placing it on the breakfast table is part of your routine, but there's no paper to be found here. A new one was published, certainly, and you would sooner dismiss it than forget. There must be something written in it you would prefer I not see. How close am I?
Close enough for me to say you grow more perceptive by the day.
Now resigned to the inevitable, Pendleton departed and returned shortly with paper in hand. Well, oops. Banging my microphone. I just want to turn the volume up a little bit. Come on. Why are you so stuck? There we go. Now I can hear.
I should like you to read it calmly. No throwing it across the room in a fit of anger or shouting, "What is the meaning of this?" at the top of your lungs.
Goodness! Do you take me for a child? I'm a perfectly fine lady, and ladies would do no such thing. I'm as capable of handling bad news as any As I had been declaring as much, I cast my eyes down towards the headline and cut myself short upon seeing the front page. Genius boy detective turns to crime? Below the headline was an article recounting the recent murder. No names were mentioned, but it took little guesswork to ascertain the culprit. Holmes was in the accompanying photograph as well, being escorted away by Scotland Yard. And right away. What is the meaning of this?
Sadly, I know you all too well. Now, my lady, if you would try to stay calm.
How can I? This article is making Holmes out to be a petty criminal.
So it is. And with this in the open, it's only a matter of time before the rumors spread.
Pendleton then sternly looked at me.
Listen well, my lady.
Yes?
I must ask that you take due caution in how you approach a relationship with Holmes.
Yes, I know I'm nobility, and I need to, as it would dictate, I should distance myself so I'm not drawn into a scandal and such things. But I love the boy, Pendleton. I'm not sure I understand.
Truth or not, he will be perceived as a criminal by society. If you're seen as intimate with him, there's no telling how your image may be affected. And perception aside, this does appear to be the result of him being targeted by those of criminal intent. We cannot rule out that you may be in danger when with him.
Are you telling me to stay away from him when he's a victim?
I know how difficult the idea must be to accept, but consider your position. Your actions, your choices, are more than just yourself. They are the Whiteley family's.
There it was. Whiteley family pierced me as a dagger would a heart. He was right. As heiress to a grand legacy, I had an obligation to protect and defend our good name, just as mother and father had in life. I had inherited a priceless treasure. I had to defend it to the end of my days. Pendleton felt the gravity of his warning, but he knew my duty and resisted the emotional pull. His face held tense.
I was entrusted with the task of raising you. As such, it is my responsibility to ensure you know your role as the head of this family. Your every action brings about joy and anguish not only for you, but for every single person who has devoted their lives to your name.
Pendleton.
I realize how cruel this is, but know the reason why I ask it of you.
Pendleton had supported my family in my stead for many years, and he had experienced what it meant to know my position firsthand. There truly was no one more qualified to know such cruelty. In the end... I'm smooching this boy, though, Pendleton. I need you to understand. Please understand. If you need to leave, I get it. I do know, Pendleton. I know full well what you're saying is the right thing, and that my best course of action would be to adhere to it. But Holmes has done so much for me. I can't ignore that. I can't turn my back on him in his hour of need, not after he was always there when I needed him.
My lady.
My family is my pride, but what pride would there be in allowing a fair-weather friend to lead it? Mother and father never abandoned those in need. Would they not do the same, Pendleton? Pendleton didn't answer. It was Her Majesty, and Pendleton especially, who taught me the wonderful people my parents were. He would never be able to propose otherwise. That might have been what got them killed in the end. It is true that their deaths continue to weigh heavily on us, but you push it forward regardless. Through all its troubles and woes, you have stood by this family.
Well, when you put it so valiantly, I fear I'm at a loss for words.
You must know how grateful I am to you. You've chosen the beaten path, to stay true to me knowing the difficulties ahead. Haven't you?
You have become a splendid woman, my lady. I concede.
His smile was wry, but there was a hint of happiness he simply couldn't hide. He's proud of you, girl. Okay, good. Good! We still have our one hell of a butler as an ace in the hole in case we get ourselves into trouble. After finishing my breakfast, Pendleton saw me off as I made my way to the academy. A imprudent lack of discretion made it clear that the student body had read the morning paper. It seemed every one of them was chattering on about Holmes, daring a glance as they did so. Ah, boy.
Here comes the genius boy detective. What in God's name is he doing here?
I'll say, why hasn't Scotland Yard arrested him? How am I to concentrate on my studies when there's a murderer strutting about? Some stares were deathly, and not a soul could resist staining his image with suspicion. It pained me to see him being treated as an outcast. If only they would believe he was innocent. And still my pain was nothing compared to Holmes's, whose feelings of isolation were as transparent as those demanding it. Nerves determined to fail me, I nevertheless gathered my courage and greeted him with a smile. His look of shock. A pleasant morning to you two.
Miss Whiteley, is it wise to spend time with us? Circumstances as they are, I can't say I would blame you if you turned the other cheek.
Of course. I know what's written in the paper, but you're both friends of mine, and friends are meant to help one another in times of need.
And why does this not surprise me?
Can't believe Holmes had the brass to come to class. I don't know if I should be impressed or appalled.
It's what happens when you've got all your celebrity from your father, I suppose. Even Scotland Yard looks the other way from time to time.
That's so. I wish mine was like that then. Shame he's just a bobby.
You there! Shut up! You can't say that about him! Let them talk, Watson. It's no bother. But you didn't do anything wrong! You shouldn't have to hear this! That may be so, but causing a scene gives them more ammunition to spread the rumors.
I'm really glad Watson's sticking with his friend through all this. What a bud.
I don't like all this. It's terrible.
Be of good cheer, Watson. Once we close this case, no one will dare say a bad thing about Holmes again.
Maybe, but I have my doubts.
Well, no matter what happens, no matter what people say, you have an ally in me. So don't lose heart, and let those nasty rumors flow in one ear and out the other. Keep being yourself. Remember, you've done nothing wrong. Aw, yeah, get all them heart points, girl.
You're absolutely right. Funny how even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Just give me a little something, man. Give me a little sugar is all I ask. It's like trying to squeeze blood from a stone. Was that at all necessary?
We'd best count ourselves lucky to have such a brave one on our side. Even at times like these, he showed no fear.
Thank you, Watson. You could learn something from your friend, Holmes. Upon entering the classroom, I noticed Marple addressing Holmes. I read the paper, Holmes. Hadn't everyone? It was the topic of choice for nearly every person I'd seen.
Then we have something in common.
I'm certain you know what I'm going to ask, then. You aren't the culprit, are you?
What would you do if I said I were?
Is it really so difficult to answer the question instead of being a contrarian? All I want to hear is the truth. From you. I can't be alone in that.
All of us believe in your innocence, Holmes. Don't we, Faber?
Hi, Lupin.
Of course. That's us, and Lupin makes 3.
Me? Well, yes. He's innocent. He must be. Holmes could never do something so awful, don't you think?
What? Why are you asking me?
Oh! Well, I, was hoping we would be in agreement. That's all.
He can do just as he likes. It's not me concern.
Says the not serial killer. As if to illustrate his disinterest in more than words, Jack returned to staring out the window as he so often did. You had some mishap, and now you're being left with the blame, I'll bet. You can tell us! Holmes.
You're correct. I didn't commit that murder. And that's all I have to say on the matter for the time being.
Any reason why? My grandmother once told me that whenever someone who often chirps away like a baby bird suddenly stops, there's always something more to it. Wise words.
Miss Marple, I don't recall ever being the type to chirp away, as it were.
Yet I get the sense you're being more obstinate than usual where this matter is concerned.
We're schoolmates, Holmes. There's not a soul here who would believe that article rings true.
If you've genuinely found yourself in dire straits, then seek support. You have plenty here. Mr. Mackenzie, Watson, and myself, of course.
I know Akachi would always extend a helping hand, but your dad's a famous detective, isn't he? Why not...
Ignore your advice. I'll do just that, thank you.
Kobayashi had managed to say the very thing Holmes least wanted to hear. I pursed my lips in concern. I'm pretty sure we can all rest assured that Herlock's dad is way on the case. His boy's in trouble, man. He won't let Holmes know, but he's on the case. If there was one thing Holmes could not ignore, it was the very man he considered a lifelong rival. Since the womb.
Come now. The last thing he needs is to be bombarded with attention. Let's all calm down, shall we?
As I moved to step in, Mr. Mackenzie arrived. Good morning, Mr. Mackenzie.
Good day, class. Please take your seats.
And we did just that. Feet shuffling and chairs being pulled this way and that as our ever-reliable teacher went to his own desk at the front. Ever reliable.
Holmes. Yes, sir. Thank you for coming to school today. I see no reason why I wouldn't.
Perhaps feeling guilty upon Holmes's reaction, no one in the class ought to press him on the issue again. Mackenzie is so fond of Holmes, my heart. As class ended and students began to lunch, Holmes stood and retired from the room at an unusually brisk pace. He said it was because he was tired of the stairs. Still, I can't help but wonder if he suspected everyone would be happier if he weren't here. If any one student at the academy who believed the paper were to interrogate Holmes, then they would have an army comprised of his fellow schoolmates to contend with. Holmes no doubt knew this, as well as knew that whatever tension that might come about would dampen the mood.
He has a bad habit of turning cold when he's having a rough time of it. Probably busy brooding over whatever's happened at the moment.
Holmes's problems were Watson's problems, and he'd taken to the current dilemma so genuinely that each new sigh grew heavier. Watson.
Do you think he's going to be all right?
I suppose if he ever decides to open up, but that's not the Holmes way. He prefers to hide it. He was the same way when we'd had our first fight.
You two have fought before? I thought I'd misheard. Holmes and Watson had disagreements as any two people would, but I never witnessed anything resembling a fight.
Was a right ugly one, too. It happened not long after we first enrolled and started living together.
Watson began the story in a somewhat wistful tone. Take me back, Watson.
There used to be a boy in our class named Roy. He'd lost his father to illness shortly before, and he had no siblings. He was part of a family, and then, just like that, it was only him and his grieving mother. He knew she wasn't coping well, so he thought to ease her fears by working as a paperboy like me. Thought he could pay for some of his education himself. And here's my half. Let's get going.
Oh my goodness, another boy. Stop! I don't know where to find your voices.
You might use the back alleys today, Watson. There's a parade of some sort going on near Big Ben. I imagine it'll be even busier than usual, so take care, all right? I'll come help after I've sorted my own deliveries. Thanks! I'll see you in a bit, then. Roy was good-natured to a fault, but he was also clever. So clever, in fact, that he often rivaled Holmes's intellect in the classroom.
Wow.
And Holmes carried nothing but respect for his talent. The three of us got on well, so Roy would often come to visit our flat. I was excited, honestly. Holmes and I had never had a friend in common before. By the way, Holmes, I tried decoding that cipher, and I think I finally cracked it. Is this right? I'm stunned you were able to work out the rule and the numbers in such a short time. This is flawless work. Good show, Roy! You ought to consider opening your own detective agency. You'll have clients queuing up faster than you can take them. I appreciate you saying so, but I don't think I'm quite up to par with Holmes here. And I wouldn't have an assistant as capable as you, either. I know! Why not come and work with us, then? They always say 2 heads are better than 1. 3 would be unstoppable. That's kind of you to offer. Thank you. Holmes and I had already established ourselves as detectives by then. Our early work was much simpler compared to now, of course. We'd locate missing goods, investigate unfaithful husbands at the urging of their wives, and other small tasks. But a certain frustration began to settle in as we noticed a deliberate pattern in our cases. They were boring. Perhaps our clients thought us too young for anything truly grand. There are days when I feel as if we're never going to get a real job. I'm not sure how much more I can take playing an advisor for housewives. Our time will come. One doesn't earn a glowing reputation overnight. Yes, but we've waited long enough. What say you, Roy? Roy? Is everything alright? Oh, sorry. You were saying? I do believe Watson's onto something. You look rather pale. Do I? That's funny. I feel the very picture of health. Are you tired at all? Your mum's been in bed with a fever for a while now. Must be exhausting looking after her. Well, yes, it can be. Come to think of it, it's been a week. Why not have Dad examine her? It can't hurt to have a doc... That's quite alright. Really. She'll be up and about soon enough. She's doing much better since taking time off at the factory. That does remind me. I have some things I need to do today, so I must be going. I'll see you two later. Wait, Roy! Or don't. I wonder what's so important. His mum, maybe? Doubtful. He would have said so if that were the case. He's been looking that way on the delivery route lately, too. Just exhausted. It could have something to do with his new part-time work at the pub in the evening. I hope he's not working himself ill. Regardless, if he doesn't want to discuss the matter with us, it isn't our place to pry. Quite. Several days later, Roy stopped attending class. He stopped working his route, and he even stopped coming to Baker Street. He had completely disappeared. At the same time, we were assigned our first major case, a robbery turned homicide. The task was given to us by a relative of the victims. They expressed impatience with the Yard's handling of the case, stating that they had yet to narrow down a perpetrator, so they thought to bring the matter to us. What did they have to lose? Oh, Emily, you should have seen me then. I was so pleased at the news. It was the very thing I'd been waiting for. The very thing that could put Holmes's name squarely on the map. Better yet, I was familiar with where the crime took place, as the victim was an elderly gentleman whose mansion was along a paper route I frequented. We were informed that his daily routine included visiting his ranch on the outskirts of London to admire his horses. The victim's driver attested to that as well. He was in the middle of boarding his carriage when the incident occurred. His testimony described a man with a cap pulled over his face suddenly appearing and roughly handling the victim as he stole his purse. He then fled north after shoving the victim.
Yeah, like, Roy's turned to some kind of life of crime. Either robberies or drug trafficking or something.
The shove itself had caused severe head trauma, leading to a coma, and his death in short order. The crime was noted to have taken place in the early morning, leaving few witnesses to account for. This was what made obtaining leads so difficult for Scotland Yard. Good morning. You're here early, Holmes. I've somewhere I need to investigate, you see. Really? Is it in regards to the murder? Would you like me to come with you? Thank you, but I'll be all right on my own. What I need you to do is find the name of the paperboy who was assigned the victim's route the day of the murder. Just their name? I can speak with them if you'd like. The name alone will do. Let me know as soon as you have it. We then went our separate ways. I did precisely as he asked, and was stunned upon finding the name Holmes wanted. Roy. He hadn't worked a day since the murder. I feared for our friend. What if something else happened? What if he'd been tangled in the murder? Before I could relay any such theories, however, Holmes returned to the flat with a report of his own to share. I had a talk with Roy's mother. By the sound of it, she was suffering from a lung condition, and it had recently worsened to where she could no longer eat. Say that again? You visited his mother? Indeed. And there's more. Several days ago, Roy called a doctor to their home, and her conditions remarkably improved with the prescribed medicine. She has no idea where the money came from. Holmes, you can't be suspecting! The timing of all events lines up perfectly. I've asked his mother to request that Roy come here as soon as he's home. Speak plainly, Holmes. What are you trying to say? Holmes's tone remained flat, distant. Right then, I learned that even if the culprit were one of his closest friends, it would not stop him from pursuing the truth. He would never hesitate.
Yeah, we kind of established that early in this game.
I believe Roy committed the robbery we're following in order to fund his mother's medical treatment. Am I wrong, Roy? In the doorway, Roy stood, lost for words. He was fixed to the spot, face growing paler, fingers still on the door handle. Roy? You heard our conversation. I should have known you'd discover the truth, Holmes. You're right. It was me. I only wanted the money for my mum's medicine. I never wanted him to die. I swear on my life, I never wanted that. That's all very kind to say, but what were you intending to do had I not called you here? Were you going to confess, or were you going to run away? Use your mother as an excuse? You committed a terrible act, and you still chose to hide. But I know what happened, and I cannot stand idle in light of it. Holmes? You do know what you're saying, don't you? I deserve it, Watson. Everything he says is the truth. Holmes is never wrong. You know that better than anyone. Ever since Dad's death, Mom's kept working to look after me. Her condition would worsen, but she still worked. She suffered, and she tried to hide it all from me so as not to worry me. Even at death's doorstep, she managed to smile, managed to tell me all was well. I knew I should turn myself in, but I couldn't stop thinking of how she would fare without me. In the end, I let that rule me. I couldn't leave. Pitiful, isn't it? Yes, that it is. I understand you were thinking of her, but you should have known that as soon as you committed a crime, this is how it would end. I've observed your every action, as a friend, of course. So if you truly believed you could deceive me forever, then I do quite strongly pity you. But you know as well as I do that he didn't intend for that man to die. Is there nothing we can do for him? Result trumps intention. Had Roy not taken that gentleman's purse, he would still be alive today. Turn yourself in, Roy. You can outrun a sentence all you wish, but you'll never be able to outrun your guilt. You're right. Of course you're right. What I did can never be undone. The grief I've caused his family will never leave them. And that will remain forever a blight on my conscience. I know what I've done, and I'll never stop hating myself for it. Roy's smile, then, was somehow heavier than a frown. A smile bereft of any happiness. He was resigned. Relieved. Scotland Yard will be here soon for a progress report. You can tell them the truth then. Holmes, too, was bereft of the passion he often secured from his investigations. He behaved as a machine would, from the deafness of his tone down to the coldness in his eyes. I couldn't blame you were you to look down on me as I am now, but I'm still thankful to have you as a friend. Without you, I would have condemned myself to living a life of fear and guilt. Holmes! Surely you have more to say to him. Can't we find a way to help him? Cover his tracks. You're a smart man. You can manage it. Please don't hate him for this, Watson. You're his assistant. He needs you to stand with him. And why didn't you come to us? We're your friends! Indeed you are. But that's why I didn't want to tell you. Scotland Yard arrived soon after, as Holmes said they would. Roy confessed to his crimes, and then he was gone. That was the end. Well, you pleased with yourself now, Holmes?
Ooh. I'm getting, Soji Toshi vibes.
Certainly. Why wouldn't I be? I solved the case. And if it's all the same to you, I wish to be left alone. Don't speak to me. How could he still rattle off such things? With every word, I'd become angrier and angrier. That's enough from you. I couldn't bear it any longer. Holmes! Ugh. Holmes made no attempt to block me as I struck his face with all the anger that was building inside of me. Were I in my right mind, I would have realized it was impossible for someone with Holmes's gift for boxing to take the hit, but all I saw was red. No one is perfect! Everyone makes mistakes! You couldn't have at least given him a word of comfort? Anything! He was your friend! Did that ever mean something to you? Answer me! His cheek had quickly gone from red to swelling, but his expression never changed. I took another swing. And he chanced a fist towards me, too. Oh! Ow! What was that? Speak up! I refuse to believe you feel nothing after this! Out with it! Gah! You! Oh! Damn it! Oh! I was so angry at the time, but I should have noticed sooner how angry he was with himself. What ensued was nothing more than a lowly brawl between idiots. One blow after the next was exchanged.
You too.
I'm confident in my stamina, but Holmes has skill married to his strength, and it wasn't any different then. There was only so much I could take before I'd met my limit. Perhaps I only lasted as long as I did because Holmes's mind was elsewhere. His composure was lacking, and his usual grace degraded itself to something unrefined. I'd finally given in and was on the floor. He was trembling, shoulders, legs, and all, on his knees. I wanted to help him too! Am I pleased? How could you ask that? How could I be? Even his voice seemed unstable. A great unrest had consumed him to the point where he could no longer contain it. No matter how desperate he was to win it back, the shaking wouldn't stop. He had swelling and bruising and other injuries, but more distinct than those was the distortion beneath the surface. Right. What a stupid ass I've been, I thought then. It wasn't half as easy for him as I'd assumed it was. He'd chosen the hardest path for the sake of our friend, not because he hated him. Roy was guilty. I was indignant. Yet somehow, the one who had struggled most from this tug-of-war was Holmes. Oh. Well then. No new cases followed that one for some time. Perhaps it was to our benefit, as we were hardly on speaking terms since that evening. It was only some time later that I was told Roy's crime had been deemed an accident in a court of law. Further investigation proved the push on Roy's part wasn't the victim's cause of death. Rather, he had fallen and hit his head as he made chase. The change in opinion was brought about by a certain someone working to collect information from what few eyewitnesses were present, including the carriage drivers. Though I was never given a name, I could not help but notice the connection when I discovered Holmes' investigation was to prove Roy didn't murder anyone. Try as I did to press him on the matter, he was relentless in his silence. I must be off to take care of some other business. Would you mind if I joined you? Do as you please. Holmes was to visit Roy's mother that day. She was still recovering, but her symptoms had improved at an astonishing rate. Even in times of great illness, she fretted over her son. Roy did all this to help someone very special to him. He's now atoning for his actions and working to right his wrongs. I should like you to know how dear a friend he is to me, as well as have my confidence that he will come home to you as soon as he can. All I ask is that you wait for his return. Please. I thought I knew everything there was to know about Holmes before then. He was strong in mind, logical to a fault, and nothing could stand to sway either. But Holmes swayed often, and he carried his weight in fear. He feared, he worried, he questioned his every decision. He secured his doubts in a box for only him to see, and though he wished to throw away the key, he continually filled it with more doubts still. He would sooner fill it until it was full to bursting, until the lid would no longer close. He was ordinary, much like the rest of us.
I didn't know any of this.
The way he's approaching this case now reminded me of how he was then.
For all the pain he knew it would bring, he suppressed his feelings as well as he could and pushed forwards. It does sound rather like him. That silly boy. He simply can't ignore a case when it's right in front of him. It could bring him joy or sorrow, and he would still obsess until he solved it.
Listen, Emily. Don't tell Holmes I said any of this, all right?
Of course. I won't say a thing. Besides, I should say our time is best spent gathering evidence to clear his name. With perfect timing, the bell to announce the start of class began to chime throughout the academy. Holmes returned to the classroom and to his assigned seat. Watson's story had given a deeper meaning to the eerie calm of his expression. Far from reassuring, seeing it only made my chest tighten. Never fear, Holmes. We won't stop until we prove your innocence. I wondered if I should have said anything. He surely would have preferred I kept to myself.
Will you now? Are you really so confident?
I am. I might not be able to do it alone, of course, but I'll have your help too, so all will be well.
Huh. You never stop surprising, do you?
Holmes's smile was only slight, and though I didn't know if his heart was in it, I took it as a mild victory. I knew then that I would do anything to see that smile grow.